What's going on, YouTube? This episode was the episode that I think everybody in their right minds was waiting for this whole time, and the way they delivered it is perfect because we got left on a cliffhanger. It took 10 out of 12 episodes to get to it with the buildup of the characters and the bonds and everything else to lead to this, and it just makes me so happy. And the way, like I said, they execute it is just perfect. So before we just talk more about this episode or the series in general, let's delve into the episode. So it starts off pretty much Fuka is running towards Wataru at the bookshop. He's still working there. School still hasn't started. They're getting ready for the tour. And first thing he has to say about it is like, oh, there's middle schooler. I think he has to shake his head and realize, obviously that's not her name. And then go about his way with that. And then right after that, we see her with obviously Wataru and Mina at the bookshop, and they're all outside. And Mina kind of gives Fuka this really kind of glarish stare, obviously because he like Wataru says, you got a female middle schooler who looks like a college student and a high schooler that looks like a middle schooler. So obviously the body tropes there and how much she despises that look and everything is pretty freaking hilarious. We get inside the bookstore, and they're kind of talking. Mina and Fuka are talking about books that they enjoy and ones that they haven't read in a while. And Fuka ends up giving Mina about this book that is one that I guess went out of print and she can't really find a copy of it. So obviously they're both getting really excited about it. And Wataru comments on the fact that, this is what avid book readers look like. You get into some type of club or some activity that people are, or hobby that people are avid about. Obviously they're going to get that glare and talk about it like it's the best thing in the world, kind of like we're doing right here. And on top of that, Wataru also comments how Mina looks very adult like when she's talking about books and everything because it's her passion and that's what she's obsessed with. So Wataru gets this text from the group meeting for the class 1C about how everything's starting up and it's all looking good. And Wataru says a picture that K sends. I believe it's K. It might not be K. It might even be. It might be Sasaki. I don't know who, but he saves the picture from the back of the heads, of course, And then he gets another text from his sister asking if he has time today. Questioning why, obviously, because when his sister wants something, it's usually something that's not the best, but good intentions, I suppose. We fast forward to him at home enjoying a nice iced glass of coffee, and his sister obviously wants a nice glass of coffee because she loves coffee, and that's the only thing she really asks him for, it seems like. So he's got a pretty much a fresh glass, so he just hands it to his sister. She's starting to enjoy it, and she starts asking him about his part-time job and how she's surprised that he's made it all summer, and also at the fact that Mina's been looking, or he's been looking after Mina and taking care of her. And the first thing he wants to know, obviously, is how she found out. Well, obviously, she's in the student council with her brother, so he's probably got a big mouth. But she also she pretty much has to brag about her intel that she gets being the vice president of the student council. But right after that, his sister keeps threatening him with her feet. I don't know if she's gonna kick him or he just really hates feet or they wanted to get feet into this episode. Hard to say. But one of those three things is going on. But while she's got her foot in his face, she's telling him, if you have all the spare time, you can help out with the school tour visit. And he doesn't know what exactly she wants and what they need help with. And especially because it's after, his job, so she's really pushing it. And apparently, she doesn't want to owe Rin from the Morals and Discipline Council. She wants him to take care of it for her because, obviously that's kind of how manipulative she kind of is. And she doesn't want some, discontent feeling to be there after what happened to him and her at the lunch meeting after he grabbed, oh gosh, what's her name? Yu. He grabbed her hands. Obviously, she grabbed his hands and then he dropped him and grabbed her hands, yada, yada. So he's also getting manipulated into thinking that he owes his sister for something, even though he doesn't really owe his sister for something. And she's also, talking about she doesn't want to feel concerned about her relationship with her and him and, all that fun stuff, even though there's nothing there. And she also likes to add to the fact that there's probably no way that Rin doesn't want to like you and that her relationship to you isn't one where I'm sandwiched in between, if you know what I mean. So, like, of course he gets blushy because, that's just kind of an awkward situation. And then on top of it, his sister's really pushing it. So she hands him her phone because obviously she wants him to call her off of her phone so it's not too weird. So he calls her and she answers. And at first she's questioning, who the heck's on her phone because obviously it's not his sister on the phone, Kade. So, he says it's him and that he wants to help her out, and his sister's pulling on his ear freaking on the side. And obviously Rin knows exactly what's going on, so she tells him to let go and that they have business together, and that, he says he'll help her out with whatever he can, and she declines him at first, which is really funny. And of course, he starts rizzing on Rin, and it's just absolutely freaking hilarious because I think half of it just flies right over her head, and she's, like I said, every chick in the show somehow secretly has feelings for Wataru. And I mean, he's a good guy, but still at the same time, it's like, dude, how the fuck does he rizz all these girls? So he kind of like dry humors in her face that he also wants to see her on a personal level, and she starts freaking out and blushing, and I got that still in this video, and it is absolutely adorable the way they animated and drew her face in this scene with the nice cute rosy cheeks and the highlights on the eyes. Amazing. But he also likes to add this quote, he's not just a young man talking nonsense, but there is really something he can do to help. And he also like I said, he rizzes her, and he says if it's for her, it's a piece of cake, because she also mentions to him that it's going to be mostly physical labor and the things that they can't do, because considering the Morals and Discipline Club, it's mostly females. You get to school, and she's like talking about how long it's been since you've seen him, and it's been less than a month in reality, and frickin' he's like making all these jokes again about how he wants her to show affection to her kohai, and she mentions the fact with Yu in her hands, and that ultimately when he ran away, that wasn't the intention, things just kind of happen, and the fact that Yu is kind of mad at them for the fact that she did that. So she wants to make Yu happy and, have everything good to go again. But at the same time, she doesn't want to just use Wataru for that. She also wants to quote unquote view him as a younger brother, even though this whole thing, she like every joke that Wataru throws at her is just getting just like blown off because she completely doesn't understand it like whatsoever. So it's pretty great. You got to have some oblivious characters in the series. And so she talks about again how how it's mostly girls, so we need to get more manpower into this. And she's also asking it, though, not because he's a man, but because it's him, and she knows who he is, and she also likes him, and all that fun stuff. Not to the same degree as, like, the other girls, obviously, from, like, Aika and frickin' all that fun stuff, but he makes this other joke about how he's going to be carrying all these things and that he's going to show his manliness to the girls and that this is a blessed opportunity. And so she jokes and grabs him by the arms and pulls him back and calls her heavy. And she obviously, as a girl, does not like to be called heavy. So she kind of gives this pouty face and looks at him, and it's pretty great. But then they kind of walk by the orientation council group with obviously the two kids from each class. And Rin kind of tells him how they all needed like a certain level of attractiveness and everything, even though his classroom teacher gave priority to people that were going straight home. And then she likes to mention again the fact that, some teachers did that, but for the most part, they went off looks. Of course, that's how it be. So he looks in the classroom, and of course, he sees his little girly Aika, and she's with Sasaki, my bad. And they're just kind of sitting there, and of course, Sasaki sees them, and he bows his head and just walks away. And we get to the Morals and Discipline Committee, and, Mina's brother's there, and he's saying how that's all she talks about is Wataru, and his girlfriend agrees, and that it's a good thing that he's helping her out, though. And Wataru does like to make the comment that, he is a good brother, fundamentally, and, he's trying his best, but at the same time, he kind of screwed that up. But he has good intentions, And so they discuss kind of what Wataru is going to do, and obviously we'll find out in a little bit, but most of it's carrying chairs and stuff to the next locations so that they can get it all set up just in time. But we go to the classroom again, and we get to see Aika and Sasaki there, and Sasaki's trying to offer Aika kind of like a date almost, but not a date, where she can just go watch him play soccer for the day, or football, depending on where you're from. And so she declines, 'cause she has to take care of her sister. And of course, he knows that. And he talks about wanting to see her little sister. So then, like, she gets to this flashback. And she thinks about back in middle school. So we're going back a little bit. And this is like the scene row here where she starts getting this realization. And I almost started crying because it was just finally perfect, and the music that they added to it was delightful. But she starts thinking about how, in middle school people would ask her to do things and she never had time because her life was busy, watching her sister and everything, until she meets Wataru. And when he drops his tofu curry on the ground and spills it, and she mentions that she didn't have any obligations or do it out of kindness or anything like that. She just did it because she felt like she could relate to him and approached him and helped him out. So we go to the next day in this flash here, and Wataru goes to the roof and he tells her how he fell in love with her and that he asks her out, and she declines. And he kind of asks her, is there like a reason or anything, like clubs or anything? And of course, right off the bat, she gives the cold shoulder and tells him that she doesn't have to tell him anything. So this is where the pattern starts, and we get to see that the pattern go through from middle school up until then, that we kind of got to see in high school a little bit, but more to the degree of what was happening and her perspective, everything. So the next day he goes to school and he asks if it's okay to walk with her, and then he asks her if he can call her by her first name, and then he asks her if he can hold her stuff. And each freaking time that he asks her, and she even mentions the fact that he was always in good spirits and positive and tried to be helpful, but every time she declined him, like, why me, no thank you, and she didn't want him to help her. But before she knew it, people were starting to come to her and like talk to her because of the fact that he was talking to her, which kind of drew attention. But at the same time, with her decliningness, also got people to talk to her because of the fact that he's a quote-unquote stalker. But she noticed there was this one point where he wasn't talking to her for a little bit, and we know why, because it was also, well, we get into it in a second here, but with the tests and everything that he also described earlier on in the series, that she pushed him to study and do really good in school. And so she looks at the scoreboard and she calls her mom, and she's relieved that she got into the high school that she chose. And obviously Wataru did as well. And he congratulates her and asks her to congratulate him, but she won't do it because, they're not like elementary school or middle schoolers anymore. So he only asks for her to, call him by his first name, not, Sajo or you or any of that stuff. And she's embarrassed and he's begging please, and she agrees with it. So we flash forward to high school. And we finally get to see Kay, and obviously Aika met Kay in high school. And, Kay's talking about how, freaking Wataru is a funny guy, and that she's calling him Sajochi, as, like the nicknames and everything, and how awesome he is, but she's still kind of in denial about it. And we get this flash, right from the flashback to modern times. And for some reason, Aika feels like she hears Wataru calling her name. And, right after that, Sajo, not Sajo, oh my gosh, freaking Wataru, freaking Sasaki, ask Aika if she's okay and everything, and she doesn't even say anything. But he asks her if she's thinking about Wataru, and before she can, she denies it and everything, he leaves because his sister calls him, and she looks at her phone and sees the text about, him thanking her for the advice that she gave to him. And she looks at her phone and says Wataru, which is the very first time that we really get to hear her calling him by his first name. And she's sad about it. So she flashes back to the day that he tells her, that he's not going to follow her anymore, even though he loves her, and that he's doing this because he thinks it's best for her when she ran away. And we finally get it. She finally looks up after that flashback and admits that she misses him. And it is just absolutely adorable. So, but she doesn't understand why she's thinking that, still kind of in denial, just a hair, until she sees Wataru carrying chairs. And from this point on, she starts chasing him, to talk to him, to follow him down. And she's looking throughout the school, back and forth, up and down the stairs. And they keep passing each other hair by hair. And it's just, the classic comical romance where they keep missing each other until she finally gets to him and runs right into him while he's carrying these trash bins. And they're both on the ground. And instantly she says, Wataru. And he's like, why are you going so quickly? And they kind of just look at each other. And that's the end of the episode, with this nice little innocent look in her eyes. Well, sadly, obviously, he's been calling her not Scala, because, you know, he's backing off a little bit. But now she's finally fully in love with him. And less in denial. And that's it. That's the episode 10 for you. Where is this going to go? Obviously, I think it's going to turn around and he's going to obviously fall in love with her now and everything's going to be Gucci within the next 2 episodes. But is it also going to go the way maybe Wataru is going to be a little more push-offy? It's really hard to say. I feel like at this point, they're going to kind of get a slight bit conflicted with the admission in the next episode and conclusively ended in episode 12. However, what do I know? I've really enjoyed this episode, and I think it was the best they've done so far, and it makes me so happy that this has finally happened, and it makes that payoff even more worth it when you know it's probably going to end this way, but you don't know because they don't fucking breadcrumb it like they do in a lot of series throughout the whole thing. It's like you almost wonder, because they're so standoffish and everything at the end of the episode, or the season, most of the season in general, especially when he turns her down. So you get these vibes of like, you know, curiosity and peakness, while at the same time still knowing something's going to happen, but how is it going to happen while getting that character development? Loved it. And that's pretty much what I got to say about this episode. And if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. It helps me out a lot. And if you're feeling really generous, hit that subscribe button. Also helps me out a lot, and it means the most to me to hit that 1K and beyond. So with that being said, this has been Squids, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.